Hello and welcome to Fur, Fins, and Feathers. Believe it or not, this is our 84th episode, and today we are very honored to have Mark Martin of Swansea, a prominent local beekeeper. Mark, how did you get into bees?
Well, I've always been interested in bees since I was a little kid, and I found out about the course at BCC 3 or 4 years ago. Went and took the course, bought a couple of bee packages, and just kept going. Now I don't buy bees anymore. I take them out of people's houses. I catch swarms. I mostly forage my bees.
You have a lot of you keep a lot of bees locally at Christchurch, don't you?
I have 2 hives at Christchurch. I have another 4 in Swansea, 3 more in Somerset, and I have a couple in Seekonk.
So you're very, very busy.
Yes, yes I am.
Now, I know nothing about bees. How does one start keeping bees?
Well, you need first thing I would do if you were to approach me and say you wanted to keep bees. First thing I would tell you is go take a course, go learn a little bit about it.
Now that can be done through the Bristol County Beekeepers Association.
Yes, Bristol Community College does a course every year.
Okay.
Through Bristol County Beekeepers. It's $50 to take the course. It's a 10-week course. I believe it's Tuesday nights. For 10 weeks, you keep all the materials and you become a member of Bristol County Beekeepers for a year. So it's a great value and you learn a lot. Once you've done that, you need equipment. So I've learned to build most of my equipment because it gets expensive. I have 12 hives now. I don't know what it would cost me to buy the equipment for 12 hives. There's a bottom board, there's deep supers, then there's honey supers, then there's an inner cover, then there's an outer cover. So I'd say each hive is a couple of $100 in equipment.
And you have 12 hives.
Yeah. So it's not a good way to make a living right away. It'll take me a little while to recoup everything I've put into it.
Do you sell your honey?
I do when I have it.
Okay.
I don't always have it. It's my 3rd year beekeeping. I'm still learning a lot, and once I get to a point where I have more bees surviving every winter, and it's a more steady thing starting out in the spring with strong hives that have overwintered, I'll probably have a steady supply of honey.
That's good.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yep.
And you travel and you help people with their hives all over the area.
I do. A lot of times, well, people get swarms, and a lot of people are afraid of heights, and sometimes your bees will swarm up into a tree.
What is a swarm?
A swarm is when the hive becomes overpopulated. The queen, they set up, the queen goes on a diet so she's able to fly. She lays new queens in the hive, and then she'll take off on a given day with 10, 15,000 bees, and they go let's say stage, on a tree branch or on a gutter. It's a giant blob of bees, basically. From there, they send out scouts looking for a new home. So they might move into your attic, they might move into your siding, they might move into your mailbox. So people usually call me, and I'll go remove them before they move into your house.
Where they could become a problem.
They would be a problem because, a lot of people think, okay, I got bees, I'll spray them with pesticides and get rid of them. Well, they're deep inside your house. You won't kill them. You won't manage to kill them. And even if you could kill them, now you have a hive in your house. You have wax in your house, honey in your house, larvae. So if you did manage to kill them, you'd bring other pests. So now you'd have mice, you'd have beetles. So you're way better off calling a beekeeper. I can, if they're staged, if they're on a gutter, if they're on a tree, I can just bang them into a bucket. 5 minutes, I'm gone. But I have cut them out of houses from the inside, behind the drywall. I've removed them. I've also done it from the outside by removing cedar shingles, cutting a hole in the house. I have a vacuum. I can suck them up, get the queen, and hopefully get everything and put your house back together. I'm also a contractor, so
what do you
it
do
works
with
out.
those bees?
I put them in a hive. That's how I ended up with so many bees. I probably have, if I have 12 hives now. I probably own 500,000 bees.
That's a lot of bees to maintain.
It's a lot of bees. A healthy hive is 30, 50, 60,000 bees.
And are there different varieties of bees?
There are. When you buy bees, you can pick out Italians, Russians, Carolians. There's different strains, I guess you'd call them. They're all honeybees. I mean, there's other kinds of bees. There's carpenter bees, there's yellow jackets, hornets. There's hundreds of types of bees, and a lot of them pollinate.
Your girlfriend told me that she uses the wax. Talk about that.
Okay.
What does she do with the wax?
Well, she makes chapsticks. You can make candles. We haven't learned to make soap yet. The chapsticks are really nice. It's a lot nicer than commercial chapstick. It's really nice, and it's just wax, coconut oil, and essential oils. You can use lemongrass oil. You can use orange oil, but they come out really nice.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to beekeeping than just finding bees.
There's a lot to beekeeping. They're really interesting. They're really they're a lot of fun. Some nights I just go hang out with them. I watch them go in and out. When I took the course at BCC, one of the instructors, I don't remember who, but one of the instructors said it's very relaxing to go out there and work 20, 30,000 bees, and you think to yourself, he's nuts. How could it be relaxing to be around 20, 30,000 bees? But it is. It really is. They just do their thing. They're not vicious. They don't want to sting you. I get stung once in a while, and I'm poking at them. I'm taking them out of walls. I'm transporting them. I get stung, but not as much as you would think. They don't want to sting you. They want to.
So this is a very educational process as well.
Absolutely.
You've learned a lot.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. You learn a lot about their behavior. There's a lot of fun facts. I mean, it takes a worker honeybee lives about 6 weeks. It takes 12 worker bees a lifetime to make a teaspoon of honey. They fly 55,000 miles to make that teaspoon of honey and visit something like 1,800 flowers apiece for a teaspoon of honey.
It's bad to harm them.
Absolutely, yeah, we need them. Every third bite of food, I think it is directly related to a honeybee. We need them. They're pollinators.
They are essential to our survival.
They pollinate our food, absolutely, yep. And most of us lose a lot of bees every winter because, they're weakened by
Why is that?
Well, I think pesticides is a big part of it. There's too many pesticides. If I don't put anything on my lawn, and my lawn's fine. I mean, I cut it, it's green. Of course, I have weeds and dandelions and whatnot, but if you leave it alone and maybe let a little patch grow for the bees, it's great. And I mean, spraying for dandelions, myself, I don't like a perfect manicured lawn, but that's just me. And if you do, good for you. But it's kind of not worth it. You need the bees more than you need a perfect lawn,
Talk about the properties of honey.
Oh,
You and I have had this discussion.
honey's very good for you. It's very antibacterial. Anybody with allergies, if you can get your hands on local honey, it's almost like taking a flu shot or any vaccine. It's a small dose of what's going to make you sick. So honey has pollen from hundreds of different flowers in it. So you're taking a little microdose of local pollen, and it helps your body's immune system fight allergies. It's antibacterial. They used to use it to treat burns during the Civil War. It's very antibacterial. It's so antibacterial that it never goes bad. If you found 1,000-year-old honey, it'd be crystallized. It'd be, dried out and crystallized. You could eat it. It's not bad. It'll never go bad.
You brought some props along.
I did
What have
bring
you got
some
here?
props. Okay, this is beeswax that I took out of a wild hive, a hive in somebody's wall, so they're pretty much on their own. They built this hanging off the structure, so it's sort of teardrop shaped or heart shaped usually. Now, when they're in a hive, they have frames to build on. So this is a typical frame that goes in my Langstroth hive. 10 of these go in a box, and you stack the boxes. Everybody's seen them. You stack the boxes, and this is what the bees build on. This frame I brought because it's you can see where they've started to build out on it. This was in a hive for a part of a season, so you can see it's sort of stretched out in places. But each one of these little octagons, these little stop signs, is perfect. It's the perfect shape. It's the perfect size for a bee. It's the strongest structure possible in the most efficient space. It's perfect. They know exactly what to do.
Bees are actually very intelligent, aren't they?
They're super intelligent. And it's all about the colony. Everything they do is for the colony. One bee doesn't care about itself or its sister, or it's all about the colony. So if there's something wrong, if the queen's missing, if something's going on with the colony, you know it because they're in a bad mood. I don't know if you noticed this, but every time I take a hive apart to do inspections, it's glued together with propolis. So I use this tool to pry everything apart to do my inspection. The minute I leave, they start gluing everything back together again. Propolis is from plants. There's a good hunk of propolis right there.
Okay.
Propolis is from plants. They bring it back and they process it, however they process it, and it's basically very strong glue. It's hard to get these apart, and that's the way they like it. They're very
intelligent.
Very intelligent, very meticulous. They're almost like I don't know what's the word, but they're very particular about the way things are in their hive. Sometimes when I take one of these out, if there's brood in here, which is baby bees, and honey, nectar in here, I'll take an empty frame with no foundation in it, and I'll put these in with elastics. So when I install the bees into the hive, I give them a few frames of their own stuff, their own babies, their own nectar. Within 2 or 3 days, they'll cut the elastics off and drag them outside the hive. You'll find all the elastics on the entrance board. They don't want foreign objects in their hive. Dead bees they drag out. Any yellow jacket tries to go in there, they'll kill it and drag it out. Any sticks, twigs, anything you put in there, they remove it.
Any foreign material,
Yep.
get rid of it?
Yep. They're very meticulous.
What is the difference between a honeybee and a yellow jacket?
Honeybees are cute and very friendly, and yellow jackets are jerks.
They can be mean.
They're very aggressive. I got chased off a ladder today by yellow jackets, and I work with bees. I was working on a house, and there was a nest that I didn't know was there, and I banged into it, and then I had yellow jackets bouncing off my face. They're very aggressive. Where I can open up a hive of 20, 30,000 bees, and as long as I don't screw up and they're not in a mood.
So there is a difference between yellow jackets and honeybees.
Oh, absolutely. Physically, if you look at them close, you can tell the difference. From 10 feet away, you might not even notice the difference. But in their behavior, there's a world of difference, night and day.
So the honeybees are more
Docile.
docile and friendly.
Usually, yes.
Usually.
Usually, yes. Like, I've worked in people's houses where I remove bees, and at the beginning of it, they're terrified. And some of them at the end of it are still terrified. But a good amount of them, by the end of it, want to be near them and see them, and they're asking questions, and they start to realize by seeing me handle them, they're not bad. They don't want to hurt you. When they sting you, they die. So it's a last resort. They will if they think they have to, but they really don't want to.
Now, you were helping someone in Twisset today.
Yeah, a new beekeeper that I met.
A new beekeeper.
Yep. Yeah, she wanted to do an inspection. It's her first year. It's her first hive of bees, so she just wanted to be sure that everything was going okay.
So there is a lot of interest continuing on.
When I took the course, me and my girlfriend took the course. Besides us, there were 70 people in the course. So that's 70 new beekeepers. That's one course at one community college in Bristol County. So if you think about it, let's say half those people continued and have bees now. That's 35 new beekeepers in Bristol County every year. So that's, yeah, a lot of people.
So there's a growing interest.
Absolutely, and there should be. There should be. People need to start getting back to living simpler, in my opinion. Knowing where your food comes from, doing little things instead of having your face in your phone, doing little things that get you out in nature. The world is interesting.
I have to let people know that we had breakfast on Monday.
Yep.
And that was with a good friend of ours, Professor Gloria Cabral from Bristol Community College. And she was interested in learning about foraging. That is another interest of yours.
Yes, it is.
Talk about that.
Okay. Foraging, I've always been like, I grew up in the woods. I've always been out in nature. I always had a fishing pole when I was a kid. I'm always out in the woods. So foraging, I never did a lot of, but 6 or 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I did not like what the pharmaceutical medicines did to me or made me feel. So I started doing a little bit of research on natural plants and herbs, natural medicines, and you start researching natural antibiotics, which do exist. From there you go, you might be researching that and you go down a different path, and now next thing you know, I'm foraging mushrooms, and then from there it leads to a natural painkiller, and I'm sort of a witch doctor now, so I know how to make all these things. Not only medicinal though, but there's a plant called stinging nettle that I forage every year. I sort of maintain a big patch of it, and I dehydrate it and I make tea with it. It's one of the healthiest foods, honestly, on the planet. This plant has protein, more vitamin K than kale, more vitamin C than oranges. It's good for your urinary tract. It's good for your blood sugar. It's good for blood pressure. It's good, 28 health benefits. Now, it's a wild plant. Nobody's sprayed pesticides on it. Nobody's messed with it. It's non-GMO. It's perfectly natural. It's like the perfect food, and it's right there. People walk by it or cut it down or spray crap on it to get rid of it. A lot of the stuff you pull out of your vegetable garden.
I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, Yule Gibbons.
Yule Gibbons.
We used to see him on TV when I was a kid many years ago. But you are a strong proponent of eating very healthily.
I believe. Well, I don't believe, it's the truth. There's so much crap in what we eat and what we buy, and I think it's a big part of why people are so sick now. I mean, I really do. I think if people were to go back to growing a little bit of their own food or harvesting their own food, I think people would be a lot healthier. I think there'd be a lot less issues, and I don't like pharmaceuticals. I just don't. I go to the doctor. If I break my arm, I'm going to the doctor because I don't know how to fix that other than that. And I'm not saying don't go to your doctor, but I think people do too much of that and too little doing their own research and looking at diet and trying to be healthy. Besides, you know, eating all the worst stuff that you know is bad for you, having the worst habits, and then something goes wrong, you wonder why it goes wrong, and you go to a doctor to fix it. It should have never happened in the first place. My opinion.
No, many people will agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lulled into what you do is you get up in the morning, you go to work, you earn your paycheck, you come home, you buy processed food, and you're so exhausted, you microwave your crap and you eat it and you go to bed. And there's so much more to life. Life is interesting. People ask me all the time, how you're always doing something. Because I forage, I dehydrate stuff. I also jar stuff. I make jams, jellies. I make mead from honey, which is wine made from honey. I do a lot of things. And people are like, you're always into something.
And you eat very well.
I do, yeah, I do. But my response to that is, well, why don't you? Like, why don't you get some interest and try some things out? It's interesting.
You use honey a lot in your daily living.
I do. I use a lot of honey. Yep. The nettle I was talking about is makes an excellent tea. So with all the health benefits of the nettle, put a little bit of cloves in it. Ground cloves, also very good for you. It's anti-inflammatory. It's good for your blood flow.
And what about your digestion? Yes.
Cloves?
Yes.
Yeah. Almost anything that's spicy, when you put it in your mouth, like if you put a clove in your mouth, it's spicy. Put ginger in your mouth, it's spicy. Hot pepper, of course, is spicy. Almost anything that's spicy is very good for you.
Have you worked with rhubarb?
No, I know nothing about rhbarb.
But it's grown.
Yeah.
Out in the fields.
Yep. I'd say anything that you can get fresh and not sprayed with chemicals would be much better for you than what we typically buy and eat.
Do you go out exploring?
Absolutely, all the time, when I can, time permitting. But yeah, absolutely. So I go mushroom hunting, which gets me out in the woods. I do hunt. It gets me out in the woods, not just during hunting season because there's scouting and this and that. I fish, not as much as I used to, as much as I'd like to, but that gets me out. I have a clamming license every year. I do that. Basically all about free food, and good food.
And healthy food.
Yeah, absolutely. I like knowing where what I eat comes from. So with the honey, of course, I watch it. I watch this frame fill up. I watch them fill it. And I know exactly where it comes from. I don't follow them to every flower, but I pretty much know where it comes from. If I hunt this year and I kill a deer, I know what it's been eating. I know where it comes from. I know how it's been handled. I handle it myself. I have a huge vegetable garden. I don't use any chemicals. I don't use any chemical fertilizer. You don't need all that.
What kind of vegetables do you grow?
Oh God. I've got beets. I just made relish the other day with beets. So I've got beets, carrots. I've got kale planted. I've got cabbage. Maybe a dozen tomatoes. About 20 pepper plants. I make crushed red pepper every fall. I've got cucumbers, of course. I've got corn, zucchini. I've got butternut squash. I'm sure I'm missing something. But I've got potatoes growing, sweet potatoes, white potatoes. But I don't use any chemicals. I don't use any fertilizers. You don't need all that. You can, if you need nitrogen, you use blood meal. It's natural. You need calcium, you use bone meal. I use ash from my wood stove. I have a wood stove. Excellent for plants when they're flowering or when they're fruiting. It's excellent for plants. Molasses is very good for plants. There's a lot of you would never think of putting molasses on your plants, right?
No.
So I mix it in water and stir it up. Sometimes I make compost tea and put the molasses in there. But molasses has magnesium, zinc, of course, carbs. It's got a lot of things that the plants don't get everywhere else. So it's good for them. So you don't need to go buy, fertilizers. You don't need Miracle Grow. You don't know what's in there. Well, maybe if you can read those words, I can't. You know what's in there, but I do know what's in molasses. I can read that label. I know what's in the wood ash. You know what's in the wood ash? Everything you need to grow a tree, right? You burn it, the carbon's gone. What's left? Everything you need to grow a tree. So how couldn't it be good for a plant?
What about mushrooms? Do you go foraging for mushrooms?
I do. There's 5 or 6 that I'm comfortable with, and I stick with them. I don't try to, if I find something new, I'm not eating it. But there's some that are pretty safe, pretty unmistakable. Chicken of the woods, hen of the woods, oyster mushrooms, a lot of boletes. Those are pretty unmistakable. There's not any boletes, for instance, don't have gills. Underneath is like a sponge. It looks like a sponge. So the worst thing's going to happen if you pick the wrong bolete, it's bitter. So you can taste test them right in the field. Take a little bite. If it's bitter, you spit it out. You don't want that one. It's not going to kill you. So you can take whatever ones are good, you can take them home. Hen of the woods, it's bright orange and bright yellow. It's as orange as your shirt. So it looks poison. You would think it's got to be poisonous, but it's not. So you're not going to mistake that for anything else. It's a shelf mushroom. It grows on rotten wood. That one's safe, and it's delicious. You would think you're eating chicken. No kidding. I make chicken parmesan with it. You'd think you're eating chicken. So that one's safe. Maitake mushrooms, really very healthy. A lot of anti-cancer properties, a lot of anti-tumor properties, excellent for your immune system. That grows at the base of the same oak for 20 years straight. So I have spots I go to year after year. That one too, it's a big cluster of mushrooms. It might be as big as a basketball.
How far do you travel in your foraging trips?
Oh, God knows. I don't know. It depends what I'm looking for. I usually don't go deeper than probably a half a mile in the woods.
But I mean, in the vicinity, though,
Well, there's different. I have places I go for maitake mushrooms just because I found them there in the past. So I'll go when it's October, November, and I'm looking for maitakes. I'll go back to those places and check maybe once a week. If I found chicken of the woods in one spot this year, they don't necessarily grow back on the same tree every year, but the spores were there, so that you might find them this year. So I'll go check.
This has been fascinating. I've really enjoyed meeting you again and having you on Fur, Fins, and Feathers. And this was our 84th episode, and you are certainly an interesting personality.
Well, thank you.
It was an honor to have you on our show.
Thank you so much. I love to listen to myself talk.
And you did a good job.